Sons of the Forest is a very fun game and has a ton of things to learn. I'm going to break down some of the beginner stuff for you here so that way it will get rid of a bunch of your questions, save you a bunch of time, and you'll kind of understand how these mechanics and stuff work in Sons of the Forest. There are a lot of important things to know as soon as you start playing that will save you a ton of time and help you to survive early on. Initially, when you start the game, you will be in a helicopter and you will experience a helicopter crash. Once you land, you will get a survival guidebook, which kind of tells you how to start building things, but doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how to do it. Once you crash land, the first thing you're going to want to do is talk to Kelvin so he can actually do some of these tasks for you. And another thing you're going to want to do is start looking through these luggage cases. You're going to want to gather as many supplies as you can because you're going to need a lot of supplies as you go forward in the game. You can see you can just open up these suitcases and grab whatever's out of them. And these do respawn from time to time. You want to immediately open up your survival pouch, giving you the tactical axe. The tactical axe is a weapon you'll use very often. The first thing you're going to want to build is a tent. So a tent's going to give you a save point and a rest location. This is going to be the easiest thing to build, and you can do that with just a tarp. So put the tarp in your hand, drop it on the ground, and then grab a stick and place it against the tarp. This will give you an easy save point and rest location in case you want to skip nights or certain parts of the day or just rest. This is really the easiest way. At some points, you want to save your tarps later in the game so that way you can use them while in caves and things like that. So that way you can actually have save points. Otherwise, you have to go through the whole entire cave without saving. Another option is the hunting shelter, which you'll want to use sometimes in order to save your tarps. The hunting shelter can be made by 5 logs, sticks, and stones. So you're just going to select it, drop it down. You're going to then cut down a tree with your tactical axe or whatever axe that you have. Once it falls, you're going to grab these logs. You're going to add them to your build. Once you add 5 of these, then you just need to add the remaining sticks and stones to this to complete it, which can be found just naturally in the forest areas, just kind of scattered around the ground by default. So once you create that, again, that's another shelter that you can build, and it doesn't require tarps, so you can save them. You do need to eat and drink in this game or you will die. So one of the big things you want to go ahead and create is a fire. This is another simple one. Just grab a stick in your hand, drop 2 of them on top of each other right here. You can use your lighter to light these and create a fire. You can also put stones around this fire to make it a reinforced fire. And then what you can do is harvest animals and put meat onto the fire and things like this in order to cook it, and that way you can eat and replenish your food levels and your energy levels this way. Another big thing is there are different spawn points on the game, so your map might not be exactly the same as someone else's when they're showing you, but you're going to want to go to as many of these point of interest at the beginning as you can, one of which will be a cave that you can use your 3D printer and print important things that you might need, like arrows, a flask to drink out of, and or a mask. The mask you can actually use to sneak around enemies. So you can actually pull out the mask, hold it up to your face, and look like one of the enemies. So sometimes they won't bother you. So it's actually a really cool tool that you can use, especially when walking by big camps of enemies and things like this. Another important thing you're going to want to do is visit, like I mentioned earlier, other points of interest, also being the purple points of interest and not just the blinking dots on the map. One of these purple interests will be out in the ocean. You definitely want to go visit this one and grab any supplies you can along the way. Make sure you grab as much of the supplies you can as you pass them. Then go out to this raft, which is where the interest marker is, and grab this pistol off of the raft. This is going to be your best weapon going forward, especially once you start entering caves. You can also drink water from the streams themselves, so you don't have to constantly fill up your flask if you don't want to do that or you don't have one. There's also eating items you can collect, such as the MREs, which you can use to replenish your energy, just like you can with your flask and water. Now, once you have a basic setup, save points, and a couple weapons, you can then start defending yourself against enemies. One of the big things you can do is defeat an enemy and actually make a fire and throw them on top of the fire. Once they eventually disappear, they will leave behind bones, which then you can combine with a rope and duct tape to actually build armor, which you can then put on, which will save you some damage, because before you have any armor, any hit that you take pretty much almost kills you. So you can then put on this armor and you'll be a lot stronger and be able to tank a lot more hits. Additionally, once you start entering caves and killing enemies within the caves, You can hit E on them to harvest their flesh and get creepy armor. This is similar to bone armor. It's just sort of like superior armor. So each one of these creatures you can harvest armor from and get free armor this way, because rope doesn't grow on trees, or does it? Here you can see I'm equipping that, and that way you can get solid armor while you're in caves, because otherwise you're going to run out very quickly. You're also going to want to use the tools you have to create things like Molotovs and other weapons that you can use in caves, because eventually there are a lot of enemies in these caves and you are going to need them. And that being said, that's a lot of my beginner tips for anybody that's either new to Sons of the Forest or have played the Forest and it's just been a long time and forgot how to interact with the game and do things in the game. That being said, if this helped you, make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.